Okay, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the delay. Welcome back to the 2016 Canadian Senior Men's Fast Pitch Championships. Chris Abbott along with Lance Wynn. We're in the top of the first inning. The Alvinston First Ontario Indians against the Bigs, Newfoundland and Labrador number 2. And Alvinston has jumped out to a 2-0 lead, and they have runners on second and third with one down.
So a bit of a struggle at the start for Mark Power, who's in the circle for the Bigs. Had to get a bit of a talking to from the home plate umpire as far as keeping both feet on the rubber, and struggled. It was Tyler Pauli with a double to lead things off, an error to Craig Lyons, and then Travis Jones with an RBI single opened the scoring. Jeff Lyons helped the cause too with another. So far it's been all Alvinston up to this point, Chris.
Alvinston come into today 1-1 after splitting their 2 games yesterday. The Bigs lost a game already today and are 0-3. We'll run down the lineups for you. We're at bat right now with number 6 is Michael Legis-Root. But we'll start from the top. Tyler Pauli led off, Craig Lyons second, Travis Jones, Jeff Lyons, Brent Thompson to get us to this point. Jamie Shields is on deck. Aaron Stocking, the third baseman, is due up 8th. And Andy Treist, the center fielder, is due up 9th. Caleb Kishig is pitching and not hitting for Alvinston. This is popped up on the left side, foul. For the Bigs in the outfield from left to right, Kenny Goss, Stephen Pittman, and Johnny O'Reilly. Around the infield, Chris Murphy, Paul Marr, Shane O'Brien, and Ferg Griffiths. Import Brian Avery is doing the catching for Mark Power, who is ahead 1-2 on Michael Legis-Root. Change-up gets Root swinging, and there are 2 down now in the top half of the first inning. That'll bring up Jamie Shields, the catcher.
Good pitch there from Power. Did a good job of mixing it up against Root and finally able to get him to swing through for strike 3 on a good change-up. Off to a pretty rocky start, though, Powers, as these Alvinston Indians are very aggressive offensively.
First pitch to Shields is tapped foul. It hit him as he was in the batter's box. Avery flipped it down toward first just in case. So this will be the first of 3 straight games featuring Newfoundland and Labrador teams here as the hosts. First the Bigs here at 4, and then the defending champion Galway Hitmen will play at 6 and 8 p.m. tonight. Of course, the schedule rearranged due to some heavy rains in the area overnight, but we're underway, and the skies have been clear now for a few hours, Lance, and it's turned into a decent afternoon.
Most certainly, and I tell you, great job by the grounds crew to get this diamond playable, both diamonds playable, but we're just hoping that we can sort of dodge between the rain clouds and get the rest of this day in.
Change up high in the zone to Shields. He nods his approval of it being a strike. Doesn't like the fact that he was fooled on it, though.
Well, no one likes that fact, Chris. That's for sure, but he was definitely fooled.
1-2 pitch. And Power works out of the jam to start the first inning, and he does that after giving up 2 runs to the Alvinston Indians, Ontario number 2. When we come back, the Bigs will get their first crack at Caleb Kishig. Due up for the Bigs here in the bottom half of the first inning, the shortstop Paul Marr. Johnny O'Reilly is in right field. Jordan Graham is the designated player. Batting fourth is Brian Avery, the catcher. The pitcher, Mark Power, bats fifth. Veteran Chris Murphy at third base, batting sixth. Stephen Pittman, another player from the Placentia area, is in center field. Ferg Griffiths, also from the Placentia area. Kenny Goss is in left field, and Shane O'Brien is the default. He plays second base, but not hitting. And on the mound, the first look we've gotten at him this week is Caleb Kishig, another one of the young arms here for Alvinston this week. Behind him in the outfield from left to right, Jeff Lyons, Andy Treast, and Travis Jones, who is pitched, DP'd, and now playing in the outfield. You talked about it yesterday, his versatility. Aaron Stockings at third base, Brent Thompson's at short, Tyler Paulai at second, and Craig Lyons at first. Jamie Shields back behind the plate where he's been all week.
Important here for Caleb Kishig to try his best to keep the Bigs off the board here after your team puts up a couple runs in the first half of the inning. Always good for momentum's sake if you can hold them and get your team back up to bat as quickly as possible.
You know, with some of the changes in today's schedule, we've had some changes in the umpiring assignments, but Lance, I believe you have gotten the update.
Yes, it looks like it's going to be Mike Semchuk that will be the home plate umpire. Pat Hazelton is at third base. Scott McLaren will be at first, and Serge Laflemme will be the off-field umpire. So the other part of the Blue Crew for this ball game here.
So Paul Maher leads things off for WMC, the Bigs. And Paul Maher is the WMC. He's a playing sponsor of Woodmar Contracting. And Paul, another Placentia guy, believe it or not. And, you know, we talked about leadoff men that are not your prototypical leadoff guys. He's the same way as many of the others. He can hit for power, he sneak a bunt down on you, or rope one into the gap. So he finds a way to get on base.
Well, I think, and that's really the bottom line of what you want from a leadoff man. And I'm not caught up in all those things about leadoff man should see a whole number of pitches, and I think he's your spark plug, and the bottom line for him is to get on base any way, any shape he can.
1-1 count to Maher from Caleb Kishig. Drop ball just outside, 2-1. Changeup is high. Ball 3 is the count. And I think, does Paul have a 227 sticker on the back of his helmet? Is that what that says?
That's what it says, 227.
That's the phone exchange out in their area. So that's Paul Maher's a character, and that's exactly something he would do. So 709-227 if you're dialing Placentia.
Well, there you go. I'm sure he would have appreciated getting the bat on the ball there, but some style points, worth some credit and some mention.
Full count to the first batter, Paul Maher. Fouls it off. This is headed toward diamond 2, and it's a single to left field. Unfortunately, it's on the wrong side of things. Full count again from Kishig, who is optimistically wearing the shades out there this afternoon. Strike 3 and a drop ball. Maher chases one away.
Good pitch from Kishig. It did a good job. That thing just fell right off the table. So unless you're way up in the batter's box there, you're not going to get a whole lot of that.
So another guy from the Placentia area, and Johnny O'Reilly. Added late to the roster on this squad, as Mike Knoftel was unable to attend. Drop ball, swing and a miss from O'Reilly. As the media organizer for the host committee, Mr. Ken Oliver, comes into the booth. Ken's been running the Twitter account. So if you see any fancy snaps, it's usually him with his iPhone 9 that he's got going out here this week.
Yo, he's got the 9.
He's got the 9,
That's
yeah.
Impressive.
He makes it look like the 9. That's the talent this guy has. Very close pitch to O'Reilly. Goes for a ball. So again, we've got a bit of a clash in uniforms. The Bigs wearing black, Alvinston wearing the blue and red. Down looking goes Johnny O'Reilly. Caleb Kishig has struck out the first 2 batters.
Yeah, and I'm not so sure that rule is being heavily enforced, or if there isn't just such a large gray area to it that, guys can enforce it. Is the blue, is light blue, dark blue, is it your home, is it your way? But bottom line, navy is dark, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Black is dark, okay?
Yeah.
White is light.
That's right.
So, but we'll, apparently there's been some toying with the rules.
Batting third is the designated player, Jordan Graham, wearing number 8. Graham pitched the loss this morning for the Bigs, and he's one of the imports on the roster as well.
Well, you got to figure this is a must-win game for the Bigs here. And you got your hands full with this good Alvaston team.
Well, you're absolutely right, Lance. You think about it, Bigs are 0-3. Now, 8 of the 10 teams make the playoff round. But, you still got to get in that 8.
You got to win at least a couple of ball games to be considered.
Graham will flare a changeup into shallow right. 1-2-3 go WMC, the Bigs, in the bottom half of the first inning. We'll head to the second. Alvaston lead 2-0. Back here for the top half of the second inning, Mark Power back on the mound, and for the Alvaston Indians, they will send up the 8-9-1 batters, Aaron Stocking, Andy Treist, and back to the top for Tyler Paulai.
So just what you asked for. Sorry, Chris. If you're Alvaston, you went up, put a couple runs on the board, and a quick 1-2-3 inning, courtesy Caleb Kishig, and now you're back up at bat.
Well, Mark Power, after getting in trouble in the first inning, giving up 2 runs and a couple of hits and an error, settled down and got the side in order after giving up the 2 runs. And Mark's going to need to keep it there because Kishig's looking good on the mound for Alvaston. Swing and a miss from Stocking on the drop ball. Wasn't really close to that one. I don't think he really wanted to swing at that.
No, it seemed like a little bit of indecision there. You're right. And again, if you don't fully commit to a swing, you know what happens. You almost always come up empty.
High drop ball in the outside corner. That's a great pitch for Mark Power. As you look at Brian Avery, he looks like he's laboring a bit back there behind the plate.
Well, I'm not sure how much catching Brian's actually done this season. So, he's one of those veteran players. And again, sometimes the role you play on a team, that has got, I won't say big budget, but a team that's playing at the top end of the tier, your role is a little different when you sort of drop down and play with your local team or your league team. And with a guy like Avery who's got lots of talent, lots of experience, you might want to utilize him in one of the most important positions.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Down goes Stocking. So 3 strikeouts in a row now for Mark Power. And to continue continue your thinking on that, yeah, Brian Avery played third base the majority of the year. Sure, a backup catcher to Rafi Flores, but certainly not the number one guy in his team. So the knees and the legs, and he's not getting any younger. Could be a tough week for him.
Well, that's a tough position no matter, how old you are. It's probably the most demanding position on a diamond. So you talk about not only the physical wear of catching, but the fact that you're calling the whole game. You're in control of the whole game. So, hats off to Brian, and I think just a bit of a role change, and I think as a coach, I would utilize a guy with that much talent and experience in any way I felt, he could help the squad.
Well, and you know what? Looking at their roster, the other catchers they have are both very young. So it's a good chance for them to get in and learn from a veteran in Brian Avery. And now Mark Power is going to get another talking to. And, when you're 0-3 and then they're calling pitches on you and trying to keep you tight, it kind of sometimes starts to unravel. And I hope that doesn't happen here.
Well, I think what really should happen if you look at the big picture, and you should really have the same rule, the same enforcement for every tournament. The problem is that, the rule that you have, pitching rule for the ISC is different from the WBSC, different from the ISF. So now you go to these different tournaments, and the pitchers, what they've been doing all year, now all of a sudden they've got to change that, and that'll change everything for them. So I'd like to see it sort of an even playing field.
Treist will hit a sharp grounder to Shane O'Brien. O'Brien bobbles it, and the error on the second baseman will let Andy Treist reach on what should have been an easy ground out.
Well, unfortunately, when we look at it, Shane O'Brien struggled. That's his second error of the ball game. The first error he made cost his team a run, and now you look here on a ground ball, and doesn't matter how fast or slow the ground ball is, but when you allow it to play you and you stand there and wait for it, the more bounces, the more risk, and that's exactly what happened there.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Shane stayed back on that and let it eat him up. And he's into his first game of the tournament. He's not used to being a bench player. He started this tournament on the bench, and you got to think it's weighing on him mentally now.
Oh, for sure, especially with him being a young pitcher, obviously. And I think that might be why you counter with a veteran catcher and not a young catcher, so your battery at least has some experience that way. But unfortunately doing the job, but not really getting the support from his defense that he needs in order to beat this Elviston team, at least not at this early juncture of the ball game.
Runner on first, one down for the leadoff hitter in Tyler Paulai. And a half-hearted swing and a miss on a outside drop ball. Down goes Paulai for the second out.
Well, surprising considering Paulai laced a double and to lead off the ball game, and then came in to score courtesy that error. But good job there as Mark Power has settled in just a bit now and seemed to have found some sort of rhythm.
So Craig Lyons steps in, and you talked about the error by O'Brien. That's how Lyons got on in the first inning. Drop ball, and Avery keeps it in front. 1 ball, no strikes.
Well, that was the thing. It was a ground ball, and now it was hit hard, but on this infield, definitely a manageable. Went right through the wickets, and then, of course, the run comes in, and then they follow that up with another one, courtesy of Travis Jones single. So errors will cost you.
1-0 pitch. Fouled off. And you talk about this infield, and quite the contrast on the playing surface from what we saw yesterday here, Lance. It was hard and fast yesterday, not so much here today.
No, you're right, and that is actually bodes well for the infielders. You just have to make the adjustment, meaning you have to be on the move. The ball's not going to come as fast, but you also know the balls aren't going to stay up, so you're probably not going to get that last hop that's going to shoot up and get you in the teeth or anything like that. Stay down on the ball, and as an infielder, that's always a good thing.
Avery with the quick throw down. Griffiths lays the tag on. Treist slides back in. And Craig Lyons maybe wants that swing back as he chased that well high and away.
Certainly not the pitch he wanted to swing at, I'm sure.
1-2 count on Lyons with 2 down. Keep an eye on Treist over on first base. And he's on the move, but swing and a miss, strike 3. Down goes Craig Lyons. So the hit and run, or run and hit, was on, but Mark Power will strike out the side around a error allowing Treese to first base. So after giving up some runs to start the game, Mark Power is settled in. Now his Bigs team will try and get him back into the game. Bottom of the second, catcher Brian Avery leads things off for WMC, the Bigs, Newfoundland and Labrador number 2. Wouldn't want to write that one out every time you were reporting the score.
No, might want to be careful with that, sir. This will be a good matchup here. Veteran hitter against a good thrower in Kishig.
Hard high drop ball is going to be a ball from Kishig. Paul McCart has done a good job of assembling some young arms. Travis Jones, who we saw, Michael Legis-Root. So these guys could surprise as they get more comfortable here at the senior ranks. Avery fouls off the 1-0 pitch, 1-1.
Well, you know, as a coach or manager, you're thinking about the future too, and you figure that every time young guys come to an event like this, that it's experience, well earned, and it'll go a long way to furthering their careers.
Drifted out to second base again, slows right down as soon as it hits, and we're going to watch that for the rest of the night. But Avery is down 4-3. That'll bring up the pitcher, Mark Power, who, of course, we talked about this week a couple times already as well. And pitchers hitting in the middle of the lineup, going old school here.
Well, I think back in the day, your pitchers were sometimes your best hitters, often so. And, you look at guys like Darren Zach, who was an outstanding hitter, never really got a chance to hit as often as he could. But a guy like that could hit, and, you could really go around the horn with that.
Power gets that in on the handle and grounds out to short, quickly 2 down in the bottom half of the second inning. And it brings up the third baseman, Chris Murphy, who I can almost guarantee you will hit a ball down the third base line.
A straight pull hitter, I guess.
I've been playing against Chris my entire life. He's a great guy. And playing on that side of the infield, I knew Chris was going to hit the ball to me. Or strike out. Sorry, Murph.
Okay. Similar to... That would probably be the book on Blair Setford, too, now that you mention that. Only he's straight pull hitter to the right side. So I'd always know, well, it's coming here some way, shape, or form. So
strike one to Murphy on the changeup to get him started. Rise ball, he chases, he loves it up there. And when he catches it, he'll rip one on you to left field. But it's such a live by the sword, die by the sword pitch as a hitter.
Well, tough to pull that rise ball, too.
And he makes a liar out of me. Great play in the hole by Pauli. And he will make the play on to first. Excellent defense this inning for the Alvinston Indians. Grounder to second, grounder to short, grounder to second. And we're going to head to the top of the third. Back for the top of the third inning, going to be the 3, 4, 5 hitters for the Alvinston First Ontario Indians. Chance to do some damage, and Travis Jones will bat in the 3 spot. And Alvinston, much like the Saskatoon Angels team we've seen, have been toying with their lineup and what they've thrown out on the field through the first couple of days of the tournament.
Well, I think if you're winning ball games and being consistent that way, I don't think you really need to change your lineup that much. But at the same time, day one of a tournament, you've got 2 games for sure. Gives you a chance to kind of get everyone into it.
Bunt Murphy, veteran play, saw the spin, let it go, and I very nearly touched that. I thought he did, but
that was an outstanding play by Murphy there. The judgment call, knew you were not going to get the runner there for sure, so leave it, read the spin like you said, and let it go foul, and it just went foul.
Yeah, just on that last hop. And it's a lot of times like that, Murphy's playing over on the third base side, and you might hear the dugout say, leave it. Rise ball paints the corner, 0-2 count, Powers ahead.
Well, he's got the best angle of it too, him and the catcher, to decide whether or not you should play that ball. And I think by the time he got it, if you know you're not going to get that runner, that's probably your only option.
This is a rise ball outside. It was the same pitch, just missed. Trying to get him to chase. Why not?
It's Travis Jones with a clutch single that drove in the Indians' second run of the ball game.
Change up. It gets Jones out in front, and he'll foul it off down the first base line. Jones leads off here in the top of the third. Jeff Lyons and Brent Thompson due up after him. Park is starting to fill up a little bit here now, Lance, as people come in anticipating the Galway Hitmen to try and run their record to 3, then 4-0. Strikeout, down goes Jones, 1 away.
Quite impressed, though, with what Mark Power has done here since settling in the first inning, striking out the final 2 batters. He comes back in the second, strikes off the leadoff man, gets a weak ground ball that unfortunately went as an error, and then strikes out the side, continues that over, and he has now struck out 3 in a row. Yeah. So give him some credit, despite the fact that he got a talking to about both feet on the rubber. He's still been very effective since giving up those 2 runs.
And he puts in a drop ball for strike 1 on the left fielder, Jeff Lyons. And make it strike 2 on Lyons, who singled his first time around. And I think they're going to call that a ball. I think we got an illegal pitch this time from the third base umpire. Or first base umpire calling an illegal pitch. There it is. So 1-1. Power gives a disapproving look over towards there. And if it's the first base umpire, Lance, usually it's because your foot is not in contact, your back foot. Change up, skied out into foul territory.
Well, I'm not quite sure if this is a scenario for Mark Power, but we spoke earlier about the condition of the circle. And because there's so much loose dirt, as you dig out the back of the rubber, now there becomes a big trench there. So sometimes when you go to toe it and go forward, you'll catch the back foot on that rubber, which will definitely throw off your pitch for sure. So not quite sure if that's not playing a bit of a role here, because every pitch it's going to get deeper and deeper, and you're certainly not going to want your foot going deeper into that hole when you're trying to push off. And you can see him sort of tamping it down himself just to see. And that was the issue. There's no clay blocks underneath there. It's just dirt. So depending on how well they've compacted it.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Powers living on the outside. And he has struck out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys now here in the third inning.
Well, 7 of the 12 batters that he's faced have gone down via the strikeout.
So Brent Thompson steps in with 2 down. He's the one guy who didn't strike out. He popped up to shortstop his first time around. A very high pop up to Paul Maher. 1-0 is the count. And off to my right, I see the Kelly's Pub guys are all smiles and handshakes and back slaps. 3-0 with a 2-1 victory over the Saskatoon Sharks.
Well, a lot of times you win those one-run ball games, and it goes a long way to setting your team right and giving your guys the confidence that they need. Sometimes those games are better than your 14-0 games as far as, building it for your squad.
1-1 count on the shortstop Thompson. High drop ball and too high, judged by the Blue Crew. Still 2-0 here. Alvinston put up 2 in the top of the first. Mark Power settled in since, but his teammates haven't been able to get the bats going. And that's been the story so far for the Bigs, putting up 0, 1, and 2 runs in their games. That's not likely to do it here this week.
Tough to win ball games when your offense is a bit anemic, so they certainly have to pick that up and try their best to live up to their name.
3-1. That's a drop ball on the outside part of the plate. Full count. So Power looking to strike out the side for the second inning in a row. And I'm sure I just gave him the announcer's curse.
Oh, lie. You've done that. You've done it before.
Foul ball just staying alive is Brent Thompson.
That was a good pitch there from Power. Again, came with that drop ball outer half of the plate. And you could see Thompson had to reach for it just to get the end of the bat on it.
So we'll do it again. 3-2 count. 2 out in the top of the third inning. Alvinston looking to improve their record to 2-1 here at the 2016 Nationals. Drop ball must have been just low because I think it caught the plate. And a walk issued by Mark Power, bringing up the designated player, Michael Legis-Root.
Tough on Mark Power. Thought he may have caught that inside corner, but not the case. And either way, we've got a pretty good vantage point here, but not the best vantage point.
No.
You got to figure that the guys in blue will get it right.
So 2 down. Legis-Root steps in with a runner on first base. Strikeout victim his first time around, and he will foul off the first pitch drop ball. 0-1.
Root certainly didn't have a very good at-bat in his first plate appearance, so it'll be interesting to see here. That was a much better swing than he did earlier on.
Rise ball chases for strike 2, and now Mark Power working on top. Oh, 0-2 pitch. Thompson on first via the walk. And this time Root is hip to the rise ball, leaves it for ball 1.
A good call, though, by Avery and Mark Power to go back to the rise ball when you're way up in the count.
Change up, strike 3. Down goes Michael Legis-Root. And again, Mark Power strikes out the side. So if he could get rid of those early 2 runs, I'm sure that he would. But his only option is to hope his team gets him back here on the sticks. The 7, 8, 9 batters due up for the Bigs in the bottom of the third.